Good morning, good afternoon and good evening everybody. I hope that we find you well today, and I hope that everything is going as it should. It's telling me I've got a query error, but Facebook's been saying that all day long, so I don't think I actually have, but anyway, here we'll see. I hope that the weather is treating you well. We've got quite warm weather here today, which I'm quite enjoying, but it does mean we're going to have to go out later and water the plants and do the gardening. So I'm hoping that you can see me, because it does keep saying error. So fingers crossed somebody will pop up very shortly and tell me that I'm either talking to myself or I'm not, which would be interesting. So I've entitled today's chat, Home is Where Our Story Begins. And although that might sound a bit strange to some of you, truly it is where our story begins. It's where our story of our development begins. So if I use the word home to you, what does that signify? Does it signify a building, somewhere you grew up, somewhere that's got fond memories, or does it signify to you that I don't actually know where home is? Well, I come into the latter category. I spent a lot of years not actually knowing where home was, and then finally one day I came to the conclusion, or the realisation, whichever way you want to put it, that home is wherever we are and wherever we feel safe. So in other words, home is here, inside of us. You know, we can live in wonderful locations, we can live in locations that aren't so wonderful, but how we are inside is truly us at home. You know, some people say, I feel more at home when I'm alone than I do with other people. Others say, I feel more at home when I'm surrounded by people. So it's relative in some respects to who we are. It's relative to the concept of accepting that we create home. And as such, what needs to be happening with our development is that we need to first come to terms with who we are. You know, you can have the most wonderful, wonderful gifts and abilities of mediumship and psychic work, but if you don't understand where it starts, if you don't understand where you do most of your development, then you're never going to realise that full potential. You're never going to realise that place where it all comes together. And you know, you hear tutors say, you know, you need to sit in that power, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to sit in silence, you need to do all of these things. And yes, you do, in whichever way it works for you, because not everybody can sit in silence. Some people prefer guided meditations, some people prefer other such ways of being, as in sitting in stillness, sitting in silence. I do both, depends on the way I'm feeling, really. I spend most of my time talking other people through theirs, I have to say. But sometimes I sit without music, and sometimes I sit with music, which is my way of guided or allowing the guidance to come through. But what is important is that we create these relationships not only with ourselves, but with our guides and our inspirers, and we get to know each other. And that doesn't mean to say you've got a name, an address and a birth date for whoever your guide is. I mean, that's all well and good. If you get that, brilliant. What really matters is that you are coming together to create this work for the spirit world. And as such, you are building the most amazing friendships. And I'm sure you've heard me say that before, at least some of you definitely have. You are blending together these most beautiful relationships to cooperate to begin the work that you are meant to do, or that you've chosen to do. And from day one, there has to be some structure. It's not a case of, oh, I'm having a quiet day, I might go sit, which is all well and good, and I'm not saying don't do that, because you should. But equally so, it's also a case of you need to make that appointment, be present, be in that moment. So you do need your set routine of work. You know, there are very few teaching mediums who can say, oh, let's have a circle today, because they're busy. They've got so much other stuff to do. They make time. So it's up to you to keep to those times. And fair enough, if you're lucky and you've got one that says, let's do something today, like why don't we sneak in an extra, then that's fine, that's brilliant. But most people have a schedule in their everyday world anyway. So we have to bear that in mind, and we have to share that information. So, we need that set moment, and then what comes next is we need to follow the guidance of that circle leader. Because there is no good going along to a circle and then taking absolutely no notice of the instructions your circle leader is giving you. Because they're not just pulling something out of thin air and saying, oh, let's have a go at this. They should have something in process which enables your development. And it will be something tried and tested that they have probably done themselves. Very few, if any, teaching mediums will ask you to do something that they have no experience of. Why would they? It doesn't make any sense, does it? None whatsoever. So if they're asking you to do something, it's not because they think, oh, let's have a try, let's see what happens. And, you know, I know we say that each time we sit it's an experiment, but equally so, it's not just an experiment. Every time we sit, there is a purpose behind it. Every time we work as a medium doing sittings, demonstrations, or whatever else it may be that we're doing, there is a purpose behind it. We are working with and on behalf of those in the spirit world. We're bringing two worlds together. We're blending different energies to create this space with which we can have clear communication, or as clear as we can get it. So all I need to say to you really today is, please take the guidance that you're offered. If you're lucky enough to be able to sit in circle, to develop and not be struggling out there on your own, then you owe it not only to others but to yourself to take the guidance that you are given. It's really, really important that we begin as we mean to go on. And I really do believe, in fact, I would say I know, that those that are willing to take that advice, to listen to what they're being asked, and if you want to question it after you've had a try. Question it afterwards. If you don't trust those who are teaching you, then you shouldn't be there. If you don't get where they're trying to help you go, then step out, because it's the wrong place for you. And that doesn't mean to say that what they're doing is wrong. What it means to say is you're not ready to fit into that group. You obviously need somebody coming from a different approach. And that is brilliant. And that's what we need. That's what we need to show and what we need to do. And it's important. Your heart is where you are. I know the heart is a muscle, but when we talk about our heart, we're talking about that emotional concept, that inner knowing that brings great joy into our being. When you sit within that energy, then your whole energy field expands, your awareness expands, and so do you. It's really important to follow those very simple steps. And that begins with finding out where you are. Not who you are, because who you are is constantly changing. But you need to know where you are. You need to know what part of you inside is that part that resonates with what you're doing. That part of you inside that says, I've got this, I understand this now. You know, I know we talk about being right-brained when we're developing, and we are using the right hemisphere more than the left. But there is a method in what we're doing, and there is a logic in what we're doing. There has to be, because otherwise we'd be out there space cadetting all over the world and nobody would understand a word we were saying, and neither would we. All of our senses come into play. All of our being comes into play, which includes our logic. And what we have to do is we have to blend all of that together. And that has to begin within. So when you're sitting in your circles and in your development, the sensing of energy that's around us and changing by the second sometimes is really, really important. It's imperative that you are able to blend that wonderful part of you with spirit so that you can sense who is with you. They shouldn't have to announce themselves with a great big bang, bang, bang on the back of your head. Your sensitivity needs to be aware of them. The change in the vibration of energy around you will become the signature. That change will, with time, immediately let you know which guide it is that's coming to work. And the other changes that come with them will indicate that they've got communicators ready to work with you. But if you don't sense any of that, you might as well sit there and do nothing. Because we have to sense it, we have to be aware, and we have to grow through that into the rest of what we're doing. Now it might sound like I'm waffling on about who knows what, and maybe I am, I don't know, but I know from my own experience that spending so much time learning to discern between different energies with different people, both physical and spiritual, has helped me immensely in my work. It helps me work quicker. I have to do less time finding out the information I need to pass on, which means I can spend more time passing information on. And if it works for me, I don't see why it shouldn't work for you either. It's not rocket science. Everything we learn through repetition. You don't go to a class once, practice something and that's it, you can do it. You go to your class and you repeat. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. And that never stops. You know, even 30 odd years later, I am still practicing. I am still doing my routines. I am still learning. And so we should be. Because the day we think we've got nothing more to learn, then we really either need to put our affairs in order or go back to the beginning and start again. There is always something to experience, there is always something to learn, there is always something that somebody can show you. And that person that shows you may well be a complete beginner that will just remind you of something that you've forgotten. Or it could just remind you of who you were when you first found this great joy. And this great joy opens up a whole new world of possibilities to you. So I'm going to leave you with those thoughts. I'm going to leave you with the thought that home is where your story begins. And you are the home of your soul. You are where you begin your growth. And I would say to you, have fun, enjoy it, experience it, and work at it. And I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I will catch you all next week, where I'm quite likely going to do another guided meditation followed by a bit of a discussion. So please take care until next week, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye for now.